Hey there, welcome back to Embodied Astrology. My name is Renee, if we haven't met before. It is Scorpio season, and oh my gosh, this season is bringing so much water. It's really quite a deluge, and I think a lot of folks are going to have a lot going on this season, so I really hope that these readings are supportive for you and whatever you have going on. Remember that horoscopes are general readings, so they may not resonate fully for everyone or with everything. Make sure to take what works and leave the rest, and also make sure to listen to readings differently for your different placements. My readings are for your sun, moon, and rising signs, and they are going to be most accurate for rising signs. But I will say that if you have a late degree rising, like 20 to 30 degrees of the zodiac sign your ascendant is in, you might also want to listen to the reading for the sign that follows yours. Just give it a try, see if it speaks to you. Okay, so some of you know that I took a break over the summer and fall, which meant that I pre-recorded Gemini through Libra season. That was the last 4 months of readings back in June. And now my break is over and I'm back. And I will tell you that taking a break from my usual rhythms and shaking up the schedules in my life was an excellent choice. It allowed me space and perspective and rest, and I feel refreshed and excited to read for you again. And this is a great thing because I'm also about to start working on one of my favorite annual projects, which is my year ahead readings. I've been doing year ahead readings now for 6 years, and every time it is such a powerful experience for me to map out the astrology of the upcoming 12 months, meditate with that map for each of the signs, and work with readings that incorporate embodiment, meditation, and visualization with all kinds of other things like forecasting and practical advice for making the most of the opportunities and working skillfully with the challenges. So if you love my readings, this is your chance to pre-order your 2026 year ahead at a discount for the entirety of Scorpio season. That's October 22nd till November 21st. When you purchase 2 annual readings, you can get a 3rd reading free. And this is great news if you have different sun, moon, and rising signs, and also great news if you have astro lovers in your life and you're looking for a cute gift to share. This sale won't last, and as of Sagittarius season, the readings will go back to their normal price, so make sure to take advantage now and click the link in the show notes to pre-order 2026 readings for all your signs. All right. So I'm going to take a quick break for ads. Thank you for your patience. Ads help me pay the bills and keep me offering free content like these readings. So you know how to fast forward. And if you want to support my work and help me do more of what I do, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, and consider leaving a tip. And definitely stick around. Your Scorpio season reading is coming up next. Hello, Sagittarius. Welcome to Scorpio season. Especially for you Sagittarius suns, this is the season that comes before your birthday season. And for any of you who have non-solar Sag placements, rising, moon, other planets in Sagittarius, there is also the sense of something being completed in Scorpio season. You might even be reflecting on the last year, and a readiness to move forward into what is going to be a new chapter. And for you Sag suns, we're getting ready for your birthday season. And so it is a natural time to be contemplating and reflecting on what has passed in the recent past, the last year or so, and also what is to come. Now, as we move into Scorpio season, something very notable is happening, which is that we are beginning the process of a Mercury retrograde. Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year, and a lot of astrology out there makes a fuss about it and has all kinds of negative warnings or associations with Mercury retrograde. I tend to think of retrogradation as positive and really a chance to apply the RE prefix, which we definitely need to do as human beings. We need to rest. We have to return to things. We have to remain with things. It's really important for us to reflect and revise and rejuvenate and reclaim. And so when Mercury stations retrograde, which it won't until we get into kind of the middle of Scorpio season, but when Mercury begins its retrograde cycle, which it does the beginning of Scorpio season. I'll get more into that in a second. It is a really good time to start to be just inviting in some more RE prefix vibes, especially because Scorpio is the sign that comes before yours. There is a natural reflective quality to this season that is asking you to get quiet, to tune in with your intuition, to pay attention to your subtle senses, your intuition, your dreams. This is a really powerful time for you to be working with prayer. And this is also a very powerful time for you to be working with any kinds of ritual practices or intentionality that help you to let go of what is no longer useful and what does not serve. So the beginning of a Mercury retrograde cycle actually starts when Mercury is direct and passing over the area of the sky that it will retrograde back onto. So Mercury begins its retrograde shadow, that's what it's called, the day before Scorpio season starts, which also is the day of the Libra new moon. Mercury will station retrograde in the middle of Scorpio season, around November 9th, and it will be stationing direct at kind of the beginning first week of Sagittarius season, November 29th. Mercury's shadow extends all the way until December 16th. And so at the beginning and end of the retrograde itself, we have these periods of time where Mercury is direct, but doing a lot of the RE prefixing, preparing, getting ready, and then also integrating and making use of the re-words that we've been doing. So Sagittarius and Scorpio, this is where Mercury is going to be working its retrograde. And over the course of Scorpio season, we are moving towards Sagittarius season, and the planet Mars will also be transitioning from Scorpio into Sag. So there is a lot of movement between these two signs of the zodiac. And in my feeling, the relationship between Scorpio and Sagittarius is a very profound one. You are a Sagittarius identified person, so you probably know some keywords for your sign if you don't know a whole lot about it. Your sign has a lot to do with vision and philosophy and big picture ideas. Sagittarius likes to see a broad horizon and look towards the future. There is a love of adventure and seeking and expansiveness with the energy of Sagittarius. Now, part of the reason that Sagittarius wants to be so expansive, in my opinion, is that it is emerging from the alchemical process that Scorpio takes us through. Everybody has all 12 signs in their chart. All of us are working with all of these archetypal energies. And Scorpio's energy is often associated with the archetype of the phoenix. So this mythic bird that burns to ashes and then rises again from its own destruction. Scorpio as an energetic archetypal quality has a lot to do with processes that bring us into the depths of something. Could be the depths of our own psyche and spirit. It could be the depths of a particular kind of circumstance that is beyond our control, that we really have to just be pulled under and pulled through. And there is that saying that the only way out is through. And that is probably a saying that was first vocalized by a Scorpio or someone with strong Scorpio placements. Now, especially because the place that Scorpio rules in your chart is so deeply symbolic of a place of transformation, regeneration, rebirth, and also the dissolving and loss of self and identity, and then the reforming and reclaiming or putting back together of who one is in the solar 12th house. This is a place where your sense of self becomes necessarily confused, if not entirely dissolved. This is a place where some astrologers speak about the experiences of self-undoing. And that sounds scary, probably to some, because here in our human bodies, these human body spacesuits that we traverse reality in, self is everything. It's our center, and we don't exist without it. And so the loss of self can feel completely untethering, and like we lose our grasp on what is real. We lose our sense of agency. We lose our vitality. This is a place in the chart that is often spoken about in ways that definitely connote hardship, through the experiences of loss and dissolving and a kind of inaccessibility to personal agency. Now, I personally feel that astrologers are dramatic, and I am one. So take everything with a grain of salt, and please think about how these symbols can also be interpreted in ways that are deeply nourishing and important. And so over the course of Scorpio season, and then we'll get into Mercury's retrograde specifically, but just through this season, I cannot encourage you enough to really take space from whatever it is that you are trying hard to do. Please give yourself plenty of permission to say no. No is a complete sentence. To do less, to untangle yourself from unnecessary obligations. And that also includes what you might feel mentally responsible towards or for. If you're trying to work things out in your mind, if you're trying to strategize and figure out how to do something that you want to do, or trying to figure out the meaning of something that is happening for you, I would imagine that this is a period of time that you are actually much better suited to being in a space of deep listening and inquiry and receptivity or openness, and not trying to move your actions or your impact or your mind and sense of strategy forward right now. It is a really good time for you to just be. And in the just being of it all, there are what feels to me some important emotions and emotional landscapes that you need to traverse through and make space to hold. When we get into Mercury's actual retrograde, Mercury will be stationing retrograde at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. So for those of you with birthdays in the first half or so of Sagittarius season, definitely take note of this retrograde. It's stationing somewhere near your sun. And then Mercury will be returning into the waters of Scorpio, and that is where it's going to be stationing direct at 20 degrees Scorpio as we get into Sagittarius season. And so this is a symbol for me of a kind of mental preparation of some kind, an intellectual scanning of what could possibly be. And the feeling that I have for you intuitively is that a lot of you are really coming into a new sense of personal identity. You are wanting to liberate yourself in some ways, or your life is wanting to liberate you from, I would say, especially emotional and psychological and energetic states of being or stories or entanglements that are no longer appropriate. They may have never been, and certainly are not in service to your future growth and your future vision. And so there is a way that this season, I think, is bringing a lot of pressure into the fire signs in general, and definitely into Sagittarius. And this pressure to me feels like you are wanting and ready and maybe being compelled and propelled by circumstances in your life into some new directions. And you feel that movement, you feel that readiness, but then your life is also holding you with a fair amount of intensity and squeeze. And it's kind of like the universe is whispering into your ear, filling your consciousness with all kinds of ideas about what can come next. But it's also got you in its grasp, and it's kind of forcing you to like be with these impulses in a way that has you internally preparing for them. And the internal preparation at times could feel fraught. So many of you need to, as I already mentioned, be with some feelings. Many of you need to really get in touch with what is actually holding you back from this next phase in your life. Some of you really want to check in with your, I'm going to say, fears, worries, anxieties, doubts, fantasies, potentially illusions or delusions about what reality is. We are living in a time when reality is just increasingly strange on so many levels. And depending on where you look, if you look in certain directions, it seems like there is a complete void of meaning. And some of you might be feeling really sensitive to this. And so it might be a time when you are going through a kind of existential backcountry and it's like you got to get through to the other side, but it is really not easy. And you're going to be faced with your own processes of reckoning a little bit. And now I will say also that I think that a portion of you, and this is not all Sagittarians out there, but definitely some of you are also working through deep interpersonal situations, and there may be circumstances with family and partners, especially, as well as people who you are in the kinds of dynamics and relationships with where you are negotiating power, where you might be collaborating in some way, sharing resources, sharing money, trying to figure out who needs to do what and who gets who and how is it, going to work out. There may be debts to deal with. There may be inheritances that you're trying to navigate. Debts and inheritances can take form through all kinds of currencies, not just money and possessions. They can also be deeply energetic. And this brings me back to, I think that a lot of you might also be working through some internal narratives and ideas, basically your frameworks for what life is about, what the world is about, and what you are about, that need you to untether and untangle from what binds and grips at your energy. Now, any of the fire signs, and this of course depends on the rest of your chart, but a lot of fire signs have difficulty really being with their feelings, especially when feelings are intense, when they feel hard, etc. And this is also the growth potential and the learning curve for the fire signs, because the more that fire can actually learn to work skillfully with water, the less likely fire is to burn out or to be destructive, right? Fire and water need to work together. And on a symbolic level, fire, Sagittarius is a fire sign, is all about movement. It is about inspiration. It is about life force. It is about creation. And water is all about the emotional realms. It is the deep psychology that flows and interpermeates between people and across lifetimes. And in order for fire to really be sustainable, to do the creative, generative, inspiring work that it is here to do, there has to be a consciousness of the emotional realm and a skillful capacity to work with the psychological realm. I'm going to say that the feeling that's coming up for me is fearlessness. It is courage. And these are qualities that are very important for fire sign people. And so I want to invite you in Scorpio season, my Sagittarian friends, to really practice fearlessness and courage. And how I want to invite you to do this is by deeply contemplating the nature of change and impermanence. First and foremost, beginning with your own change and your own impermanence. Remember that all feelings change, and no matter how intense the grief or how sticky the psychological entanglements feel in any particular moment, even no matter how many generations they might link in their impacts, all emotions can change. All psychological bonds can be transformed. And you are in a period of time that gives you a very specific and particular kind of personal power to do this work of change and transformation in the psychology that you carry in your own body, mind, and heart, and in your being. And this psychology transcends yourself. It transcends your body. And so if there are narratives, stories, trauma patterns, entanglements that you feel like you are really held by right now. Again, this could be family, this could be partners. This could definitely also be with yourself and with the ways that you feel related in all kinds of directions. This is a season that is pulling a lot of focus into those places that are ripe and ready for transformation and asking you to do the deep work so that you can move on. Okay, so a couple of things that that I want to really bring some focus to. Now, over the course of Scorpio season, we are traversing the deep waters. Depending on where you are in the world, this is a period of time that also really features a lot of increasing darkness, lengthening shadows, growth decaying, and moving back into the earth. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, you might also be getting ready for winter. The deep waters of this season combine with the sun moving through Scorpio, with Mercury getting ready in its retrograde. It'll move into Sagittarius and then prepare to move back into Scorpio. Mars is in Scorpio until the first week of November, and then it moves into your sign. And then we have some outer planets getting ready to shift in their retrograde cycles. Jupiter is stationing retrograde around November 11th, and Saturn is stationing direct right in the first couple of days of Sagittarius season. And that means that the 2 weeks or so leading up to Sagittarius season, Saturn is actually in what's called its storm. So it is holding steady at a very particular place in the chart, as is Jupiter, and they are really activating these places. It's kind of like they're big acupuncture needles, and your acupuncturist is doing that thing where they like turn the needle around and it's really zinging on the meridian or something like that. So this combination of water influences in the Sagittarius charts and in the charts for all the fire signs, I'll say, in case you have other fire sign placements, is so deep. It is so transformative, and it is potentially so fucking intense. How can you support yourself through this time, my friends? Prayer, connection with what is beyond the visible, beyond the knowable, and deeply within the subtle, the psychic, the intuitive planes. This is a very powerful time for your intuition. If you have intuitive practices, if you work with astrology, if you work with tarot, if you work with any kinds of divination, if you have prayer practices, ritual practices, ceremonial practices, etc., this is the time for you to be working with those realms. Ancestral realms are really talking to you right now. And this could feel like a whole lot of things. So those of you that are more sensitive on the psychic plane, you might actually be being visited by somebody or someone's. If you don't receive those kinds of messages, or even if you do, no guarantee that they're going to come in, but you might be feeling them in your body. So you might be noticing patterns and recognizing that, oh, you know, this pattern belongs to Uncle so-and-so, or my great-great-great such and such, or, you know, this really feels like this story that I've been living with forever. And when patterns emerge, or when you get messages that connect you beyond this particular timeline, there is something that is ready to be awoken and brought into the current moment and integrated. There may be lessons that are now ready to serve the next path of learning. There may be, again, debts and inheritances that need to be cleared up. Sometimes ancestral debt comes to us in ways that feel like fraught relationship situations, that feel like karma. And we might reflect to ourselves, again, the RE prefix, wow, you know, this situation, this circumstance is exactly what my parent went through. Or, you know, why does this story in my family lineage continue to get recycled in these ways? So if you're noticing repetition of themes, if you feel that there is some kind of like deep karmic pattern that you're noticing within your lifetime, transcending multiple lifetimes, etc. This is a time that is a really powerful portal for you to be clearing it, for you to be working with it and integrating it. Now, how can you do that? So many different ways. I'm going to say that I think the one of the most effective ways to clear those patterns is first to approach them with love. This can be very challenging depending on what the pattern is. And again, meditating on impermanence and change can really help this. And so sometimes patterns have been set in place by a whole lot of pain and trauma. And sometimes they have been held in place by a whole lot of violence and a whole lot of oppression or a whole lot of funky energy. And if you are noticing these kinds of patterns in your consciousness, or you are feeling them in your relationships, a good place to kind of begin your journey of repair with yourself and with these karmic patterns is to meet your own pain first with a lot of compassion, and just extend kindness into your own being and allow yourself to feel the feelings that you are feeling. And to go back to the learning curve of the fire signs, I think a lot of fire signs don't want to be in those kinds of feelings. They want to be optimistic. They want to be expansive. They want to be, feeling a lot of possibility. And so when these kinds of feelings come up, it can be very quick that it feels stuck or something like that. And, maybe narratives come in like this is going to last forever or something like that. That's not true. Everything is changing. So to greet yourself and your own feelings with compassion is such a powerful first step. Inside of that, you may also need to do a little bit of time traveling. You might want to reflect on how many times you felt like this throughout your life, how many circumstances you felt like this. What are the earliest and first memories when you felt these kinds of ways? And then use the power of your imagination. You can also use tools like journaling or drawing or altar making or something like that to actually visit yourself at those ages and extend friendliness and compassion and care to yourself then. This could be like you're imagining hugging your 4-year-old self and just saying like, yeah, it really makes sense that you feel this way. I'm sorry that happened. You might call on the agency of your adult consciousness to be with the younger versions of your consciousness. From there, you can extend into other relationships. Your visit to your own compassion and empathy for yourself will give you resource to share with others. And so if there are other beings in your stories, again, ancestors, former partners, people who did a lot of damage, who you may or may not even know, if you can love yourself through contemplating their experiences, it might also give you a little bit of lubrication for the stuck spots and potentially a little bit of nourishment that you can extend to them. And this doesn't mean that you have to forgive everybody and let them close to you. It could just mean that you come into contact with what you need to let go a little bit of the sharp edges that you might be holding on to, or of the ways that you are also entangled in those patterns. And then I will say that this is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because sometimes empathy and compassion, especially if it's not really rooted and integrated in compassion and love for ourselves, can become a pathway of enmeshment. So if we feel more compassion for someone else than we do for our own boundaries, oftentimes we can self-abandon. We can find ourselves making all kinds of excuses for other people's behaviors, for not having appropriate boundaries, etc. And so there may also be relationships. Again, these relationships could be with those who have already transitioned into spirit. But there may be relationships where what is required from you is a certain amount of forgiveness and compassion and understanding of their experience, but also a boundary. Also some clarity on your part that you don't need to put up with that anymore. You don't need to do that anymore. And you are letting the pattern go back to the earth. You're letting it dissolve into something else. And here I would invite you to meditate on liberation for your relationships as well, imagining that they too can be freed from these destructive feeling patterns or these narratives of pain, or any places where they may also feel kind of contained in a particular space and unable to move on. I also want to bring attention to the movements of Mercury and then Mars into your sign, into Sagittarius. So we have Mercury moving into Sagittarius right at the end of October, around the 29th of October, and then we have Mars moving into Sagittarius just a couple of days later, around November 4th. Now, right before both planets move from Scorpio into Sagittarius, they will be making a trine with Neptune at the very last degree of Pisces. Neptune is finishing its transit in Pisces. Make sure you come back and listen in Sagittarius season, because I'm really going to be working with you around that cycle and that phase. But I will say for now that there are some big chapters that are ready to close that specifically you might find some information if you reflect back to 2011. And I would say concentrate on the storyline that has been unfolding in your home, in your family, in your relationships with foundational figures in your life, with your own stability and sense of belonging since 2011. There is something in those realms that is really wanting you to tune in and pay attention to the ways that you have been following a calling of some kind, an intuition, a dream. You've been reaching for something that a lot of times has felt really subtle. It may have felt completely locked up in the liminal, like, how do I even get that? It could have felt like it was out of your grasp, or it constantly slipped through your grasp. But over this course of time, you have also become aware of some of the ways that you've been harboring fantasies that are actually diluted. You know, maybe you've been way overgiving in certain ways, or you've refused to see certain patterns. There may have been strategies that you had around numbing or enmeshment or a certain kind of vacancy in your own presence that over these last 14 years or so, you have had to confront and actually get real about. And something is happening for you right now where the tension of those particular patterns is coming to a head, and you are ready to make a break. You are ready to like really integrate the lessons. You are ready to move on from those chapters. It feels like a lot is clarifying and solidifying for you at this time. And this is necessarily changing. It is implicitly changing how you are going to be in relationships moving forward. And the kinds of contracts that you make from this point forward in any important relationships, whether these are love relationships, family relationships, work relationships, any important relationships from this point forward need to be established with some kind of different foundation. Now, there could be a whole lot of storylines in there that are very specific to you, but the themes that I'm getting for Sagittarius in general is that you need to know what your ground is. You need to know what you stand for. That is a metaphor, right? Like, what do you actually really want to build in this life with other people? Because you are building all the time through all of your relationships. And if you continue to make the same kinds of mistakes or choices that I think you are very aware of right now, you probably know where it's going to head. And if you make the choices that I think you really know you need to make right now, it will change your life, and it will change how you build in the future with others. And over the course of the next few months, I'm going to say through the first quarter of 2026, you have to be diligent. You have to be committed. You have to implement these changes and these choices in your small decisions, right? Like every choice is going to lead you to the next choice. So it could be a choice that is so benign, right? So banal as like, what do you want to eat for dinner? And in that moment, you have to really check in with who's asking, how am I responding? What's the story that's happening here? What is my authentic truth? Can I attune myself with them and make a choice that is grounded in the present moment reality? And the feeling that I get is that a lot of you are waking up to something. You're having a sensation of, whoa, that was a fantasy. Wow, I've been fantasizing about something. Or, wow, this is the history and the biography of my family system, all circulating around this particular delusion or something like that. And then at the same time, you are getting really grounded with, this is my dream. This is my vision of what's possible. And this is the way that I really want and need to build in my relationships and in my commitments and in the ways that you create whatever your version of home and family is. And those words are tiny and massive at the same time. This feeling gets really concentrated around the full moon and the new moon in Scorpio season. So we have a full moon in Taurus on November 5th. We have a new moon in Scorpio on November 19th. Those lunations, both of them, are asking you to really check in with what are you building and what are the subtle spiritual, psychic, and psychological influences at play in how you are building what you are building. Because your intention is everything, Sagittarius. How you view the world makes all the difference in the kinds of choices that you make and what you are able to pay attention to and perceive. And my closure for you for this reading is to really tune in with your perception and what is influencing this moment of perception and choice. You have agency now that you have never had before. You have capacity now to clear and liberate yourself from ways of kind of psychologically, spiritually, subtly being oriented. And now it's like you're getting a little bit of a cosmic chiropractic adjustment. You can give yourself that adjustment. You can shift the way that you're orienting. And for a lot of you, it's just a very subtle shift. It's being with your feelings in a really present way. It's really paying attention to what is happening in the in-between and the underneath of it all. That then allows you to get grounded in a new and different way, to understand your choices and your agency, to really take care of your energy. And this then sets the stage, it sets the tone for you to make some important shifts. And tune in with me next month in Sagittarius season. I'm going to take you on a journey, and I'm going to flow into that right now and record it, but you're going to have to wait until then to get it. I'm going to take you on a journey of recollection and remembering so that you can really transform and shift in this chapter. And between now and, as I mentioned, the next quarter of 2026, around April of 2026, pay attention to your small choices. Every choice will lead you to new choices. Until the day you die, you're going to have choices to make. When you make the choices that are really coming from a deep and deeply aware place, integration of your present moment with your various timelines and what is moving and shifting in your psychology, you're going to be able to make the best choices that you possibly can in those moments. So my closing piece of advice for you is you don't need to move fast in Scorpio season. There might feel like there is some considerable urgency for you, especially coming out of October and moving into November. A lot of you might be really activated, energized, ready to do some things. Give yourself lots of time and space. Enjoy the RE prefixes. And tune in with your subtle body, your psychic powers, your spirit guides, and really work with your dreams, your sleeping dreams, but also your waking dreams. What you are dreaming about, and I mean this very much in the waking life, what you are fantasizing about, what you are imagining is possible, directs your attention. So don't meditate on fear. Don't meditate on worst possible outcomes. Don't meditate on I don't know, all the things that could go wrong. And when you are focused on the best possible outcomes and really what you want to manifest, tune in with any subtle vibrations of other people's influences within these goals and aims. Whatever it is that you are doing next needs to be guided and anchored and centered in your own volition and in your own spirit. And if you have dedication and devotion to others, that needs to be conscious for you, and that is a beautiful thing. But you also really need to clear from your consciousness the more unconscious programming and partnering that you've been doing with other people's aspirations or their scripts, their trances, their programming around what you should be doing. You don't need to prove anything to anybody, Sagittarius. You are here on your own path, your own journey, and that journey is in a really interesting place right now and ready to do some exciting things. Okay, so I'm going to flow into your Sagittarius season guided journey. Definitely tune in with me again next month. That journey is meant to help you really work this chapter closure and next step. Sagittarius, I love you. I'm wishing you all the best in Scorpio season and beyond. Bye for now. Psst, one more thing. It's me again. Thank you so much for listening. If you're still here and you enjoyed your reading so much that you want to play around with embodied astrology with me, join me sometime for my weekly virtual class, Somatic Space. You can catch me live on Zoom every Monday, where we tune in with the lunar cycle, solar season, and transits for the week ahead, and work with gentle mind, heart, body practices that prepare us to meet what's coming with skill and with style. There's also more going on at Embodied Astrology, including a lovely community, bi-weekly chart reading study groups, and seasonal workshops such as this season's 4-session series with Saed Mansour, Dancing the Political. This series is going to be super powerful with what's coming up in Scorpio season and this 2-month long-lasting Grand Trine in Water. Y'all, this is definitely a time when we need to be as engaged as possible in ways that are also transformative and self-reflective. And that is what Saed's work is all about. And that is what we are all about here at Embodied Astrology. So if you want to learn more about his series, Somatic Space, and what's happening on our calendar here at EA, you can find all the links, you know where, and also visit us at embodiedastrology.com. Okay, that's really all. Bye for now.